And yeah, we're just going to look at what the universe wants to tell us about those days as a community. Okay, yep. Things have been hard. People are finding it really hard. Some people are finding it really hard to sleep, etc. We've got the three of, and a lot of endings. So there's been a lot of endings up till now. Yes, absolutely. Even literally, but also spiritually, metaphysically in the world. There's been a lot of endings. Even endings, the way you view things, that's an ending, right? We don't view things the same way we used to. We've ended, the way we talk to people even, and or what relationships look like. We've even ended relationships. So yeah, lots of endings of the way we thought our history was. We're having to leave behind, belief systems and things we thought were true. Okay, so here we've got the Ace of Wands in the past that led up to this. So new beginnings and new things and new insights. And even that thing that happened with the Gaza pyramids. Okay, so understanding what's actually below them, that news, that could be part of that, or that kind of news actually helped us end or put behind us any idea that the old way we were taught that the pyramids were put up, for instance, was completely false. So that the timeline's off, everything's off. Okay, so it puts everything off and then opens the door for all kinds of more discussions. Like what culture, even if it was an off-world culture, even created these things. Like it opens the discussion and leaves it wide open to discuss the real truth about who built those pyramids, how they got built, okay, and what those things underneath are used for. Okay, so that's just one example of, but there's been lots of examples of things that just moments, and that's what that feels like. And then it brings us to these endings and having to put things down that we can never take up again because they're completely false. Okay, so now we've got the Three of Wands, so moving in completely new territory. A lot of us have never been in this territory before. To be honest, I easily put things down and look at things from a new perspective. That comes naturally, but that doesn't come naturally to everybody. Like that takes practice for a lot of people. So this could be uncomfortable, this card, where a lot of people are looking at things from a new perspective for the first time ever. Okay, now here the Lovers in the middle. So we're just trying to keep a balance, of all of that. We're still watching political theater. It's still very theater-like, okay, and that's happening tomorrow. That's still going to be the case, but something gets divulged here. So another one of these moments, it looks like. Another moment's going to happen and moves us in a direction maybe away from what we thought was happening with the sun. For instance, what we thought the sun was, or some kind of information changes our perspective on the sun, possibly. But this is badly aspected sun, so the other way you could read it, so we'll add this to the potentials here, because we got to say all the potentials, right? The sun could mean so many things, but it could also mean children. So something's coming out that gives us more perspective on maybe what's been happening with children in the world. Okay, every single day more of this gets out there. Okay, but what we need it to get out there on is in general, like even to normies and stuff. And this card is our what's everybody hearing. So it's interesting. We might hear something really specific about sunlight, how good it is for you, how not to wear sunglasses, something like that. But it's mainstream. But also we could get something around how, children are trafficked or moved around, or something in mainstream about what's been happening to children that's hard. Okay, so that's tomorrow. So watch for things involving either children or sun or sunlight. Okay. But generally, no big, it doesn't look like big upsets, but the spirit world doesn't always read big upsets the same way you do, right? It reads it as exciting changes, right? Because it's kind of detached. I've read the universe's intentions for people, and channeled stuff for people for 35 years, individual people, and sometimes 8 a day, 6, 8 a day. Like I was a very prolific full-time reader. And I'm going to tell you, the way the universe talks about stuff is not like how you think about it. Your ego thinks about it. So now we're looking at, so that was the 29th. Now we're on the 30th. Okay, so we're Sunday the 30th, 29th was Saturday. But I'll go back to what I was saying. Yeah, the universe looks at things really detached and thinks that things are hard. When they're hard, you're learning something. Okay, so it never tells you this is, like, it might tell you this might be difficult or you might go through some hardship, but it never really goes into detail about that, as bad as it can get, right, for humans. And everything depends on how a person perceives difficulty or hardship. So the more you work on spiritually being okay with change, that's what we're going to need going forward. Being okay with change, and also like letting go of things quickly as they come and then they don't make sense anymore. You're going to have to let it go. Hanging on to things isn't going to serve you going into this new sort of the way the world's working. Okay, it's not going to serve you. You're going to need to reevaluate every single day things for a while. Yeah. Seriously. So change, versatility, and it's like walking, like staying on a log that's in the water. You know how logs roll in the water, and you need to be on top of those. Have you ever watched a logger sport day or whatever? Like there's a logger sport day here, like here in the Haida, and they get on logs and then they have to move their feet really fast because the log's twirling the whole time. The water makes the log twirl, especially when somebody's on top of it. Yeah, so it's like, we're going to have to do that. Like, we're going to have to do that spiritually and mentally. We're going to have to be that fast and agile. Okay? Yeah. That's how we're going to get through this in good shape. Okay, so here's the 30th. So we're Sunday the 30th. We've got the 6 of Swords. So again, more things coming out. We might get more. So remember how Saturday something was coming out about the sun? I feel like that's solidly, and this maybe we even mean the money system, because the sun can also talk about gold or gold-backed money systems. Let's add that to that pile. Right? Could be news about gold. Okay. Right. But it somehow affects politics. So new money systems, maybe that's how soon this whole thing could start rolling out with the between Trump and Carney here, where it looks like they've agreed on some new money system for North America. That's what it's looking like. But anyway, we don't know when they're going to actually get real honest about that. But these cards are looking like something's certainly getting close to being announced here. And it has something to do with, now I'm seeing this sun, either literally the sun, something to do with sun or sunlight or how it affects us, but also children or things done to children. Okay, so maybe all of the above things. Let's hope all of these things get out there, but also money system and or gold standard money system. So some new way of using gold in the money system. Okay, so it's interesting, but like aces are like start something new, so moves us in a new direction. So I feel like we're going to start seeing a connection between and a cooperation between Canada and the U.S. The very opposite what Mark Carney seemed to be saying. He said it was going to change. Now, here's what's interesting. In the past, you got to think everything's reversed from what you've been told. Maybe they didn't have a good relationship because Canada was so deep state. Well, actually, U.S. was too, to be honest. But I feel like Trump's really been not ruling, let's call it that, like Trump brand and the White Hat Alliance has been looking after the U.S. for a lot longer than we've been told or let in on. Of course, all through those years that it appeared that Biden was in charge, he wasn't in charge. It was Trump in the background. So Trump's been the dark government, like the dark side government, but not doing dark things. He was doing good things. Okay, but he was undercover government and governing. Okay, or at least the White Hat Alliance headed by Trump. Okay, so just so you know what I'm talking about here. And I feel like the opposite was true. So for a long time, when it was the deep state, until they got the deep state government out of Canada, they didn't have a good relationship. Now they're saying the opposite of what you think he's saying. He sounded like he was saying they were going to cut ties with the US and start making them their enemy. That's what it sounded like. Okay, it's actually going the other way. And we're going to start seeing a trend, and you'll even see it in some of the news stories and or trending somehow, energetically moving in the direction of a better relationship with the US and Canada. So that's weird. That'll be different than what maybe the media is trying to say. The media will probably keep saying the opposite. So watch for stories like that. And that feels like our weekend looks like it's kind of like that's a trend or an energy going on the weekend. Okay, let's have a look at now Monday, the 31st. So 31 days in March, and we're going to look at Monday, the 31st. How is that looking? Wow, an ace. Ace, wow. And we've got the Queen of Swords. Ace and the Queen of Swords. A new creative, something new on the horizon that's very creative. So a whole new, you know how this keeps happening. Okay, so we think all of this stuff's going on, so we're like all focused on tariffs, we're all focused on these things. What I tend not to do is get focused on any stories politically. I would highly recommend you think about doing the same thing. Don't get too focused, because they're all comms, signals, and leading to something else and getting you to look into things. They're not necessarily literal. Okay, so getting really literal about those stories is a waste of your time. I'm just saying. If you want to really be a good digital soldier, see if you don't agree, and let me know in the comments if you think what I'm saying is true. And new things always creep into it that make no sense and throw you totally off over here. Something like that's coming. Something like that's coming. Some new sort of, and it could be information about a woman that we love to hate. Well, there's lots of those. We got all the women on The View. We've got who do we love to hate? Lots of, like there's like lots of political figures in the US, lots of Canadian political figures that are women that are creepy. Like lots of, we don't know who that is, but there's some kind of new story. And it might be a story too, because whatever's going on with it feels like it's long been dealt with. Okay, but we're just going to be hearing about it. And it could even be just created to keep everybody busy over here. Interesting. So interesting that they do that. Okay, meanwhile, doing things totally different. Okay, here we've got the Hermit and some kind of stressful but this feels in the woo community, some kind of stressful stories around extraterrestrial sightings and or ships or crafts or something. But I feel like it's actually the Alliance, but they could be mistaken for aliens that are not known. So stories get out there about alien activity that might have Alliance activity, so part of the war effort, but actually taken for alien activity. So that's interesting. Okay, and again, movement towards, and we might see an influx on Monday of more people coming on our channels. Maybe not hundreds or thousands, but we'll see an uptake because it feels like the woo gets some cred here, and we start to see a little drop of that here even by Monday. I've been seeing it for a while, but sometimes it goes the other way really fast too, and then it picks up momentum. So woo momentum, we get some kind of nod, even by the normies somehow, a nod that something we've been saying has really been true. Okay, that's brilliant. Now let's look at April 1st. So this is April Fools. Let's have people call it April Fools. Let's have a look at what's going to go on there. So that's Tuesday now. We're all the way into Tuesday. I'll be putting out my zodiac that day too, by the way. Okay, let's have a look. Magician. Okay, so some theater. Well, that's pretty common. So a whole bunch of, we might see some stories that are really some really big stories about the royal family. So something's trending here around the royals. I feel like it's around the royals, and it's disappointing to say the least. It again moves people more into the woo. So it gives us more. So maybe it's even nodding to how demonic they are, how maybe they're lizards, how I don't know if it'll be that literal. That would be too much to ask that the normies might figure that out. No, this could just be what kind of creepy creeps sometimes they are, like they really are. And I feel like that could come out and cause some stir with the normies, some kind of story about some royals that looks a little creepy and gives us, again, outcome is our world starts looking more credible. Seems to be a trend going into April where we start looking a little more credible, even if it's just in little stories here and there. It's starting to steadily move in the direction of woo was right about something. And in this case, it'll have to, I think, looking like to me, either a really big figure in the Khazarian mafia who's a female, but the other way you could read that is maybe literally royals who are like big figures in the Khazarian mafia. I mean, they're still minions, but they're still figures in the Khazarian. So that makes sense. And the story won't literally be true, by the way. It'll be more of an outing of what these guys do and theater, because I feel like these guys have been rounded up. Okay, so let's do our last little look here is going to be on April 2nd. And now this is the day Trump's been talking about. But the more you look at how he's talking about it, it could be something to do with the financial stuff he's been up to with Mark Carney and other leaders in the world. So I'm not sure it'll be kind of the big kind of exposures we'd like to happen, like adrenochrome exposure, child trafficking, how they make adrenochrome. We want to know about, we want all the Epstein files, but of course those could have been, the real good stuff in them could have already been erased. Like we don't know who's been keeping those files. Like those guys don't want anyone to know. You know what I mean? But I feel like we're gonna have that sorted out. We don't even need to see that. That's gonna be too obvious. But that's just my opinion. Some people think they need to see them. Okay, so let's have a look at April 2nd. What can we expect according to the universe here? So we've got Temperance. And so Temperance, I feel like there's a lot going on. Schumann resonance could actually be calming and good to us. Okay, there's a harmony energy here. Some people could end up feeling really good, like they get a boost of energy here. And I had that a few days ago, that the night I spotted those UFOs outside, sort of in a formation. Whoops. I wonder if that messed my card view. Oh, no, we're good. I spotted these UFOs. I think that might have been Thursday night, guys. No, it was earlier. It would have been Wednesday night, I think. Anyway, that night, Wednesday and Wednesday night, was brilliant energetically. I feel like we're going to have a really good boost to our energy fields on the 2nd. So a positive boost. Now, some people won't feel, I feel the woo community will feel it. This is us, but this is the general population. They don't know what's going on, but they're in the dark about lots of things, right? There's a lot of, and something fearful, lots of fear here. But if you're in a good place and following sort of channels like mine and stuff, I think you'll be in way better shape. You're feeling really calm and in a good place and even creative, but a lot of confusion for others because maybe mainstream media is putting out crazy stories or something. Here we've got the High Priestess. That's a big secret card. Secrets and things hidden, secrets. Sometimes it's a spiritual, hiding spiritual things, but it can also be about intuitive sharpening because it is aspected well next to this King of Pentacles. A secret about something that's been kept secret from us about the money system or money in general. So more outings about things to do with finance, where we really sit, okay, that might be more about all the money printing they've been doing in the US. We just started hearing, I feel like some of that leaks out even further into the public, even though they haven't really tackled that. They're literally been caught with printing machines that print completely falsified, just send paychecks to different organizations that are completely black ops stuff, and the money is just printed out of thin air. It's total BS. Okay, so that's come out. Jean-Claude's pointed out several things where they're talking about that, but mainstream media is not really talking about it. You know what I'm saying? But the more that comes out, the worse it is for this official, like what appears to be officialdom, which isn't really officialdom. That's how crazy it is nowadays. Anyway, okay, so that feels like you get more of that. Okay, some more of that leaks out, but it's still a slow burn on that. The mainstream is still not wanting to touch that one. Okay, so we'll nothing too like wild. Like it feels more healing that day, and some outings all through the weekend of different things, especially around finances. So keep an eye on that, and something else around further maybe outing what these guys have been doing with printing money in the US. So there's further stuff like that, but I don't get any big events per se on the 2nd. Not that I'm seeing there. Okay, so take fun. His name's Cash because my son's name Cash.
Right.
Spelt with a K as well. Let's see.
Hey, Mama says, best ever fireworks coming, JC. Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
Right off the bat, Jean-Claude, we got 2 aces.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So a first ace. So this is what we can expect. So that's a very creative card. So some really creative approaches and even some really creative stories that are meant to scare you. So we need to be weary of the scare stories.
Yeah.
Okay, because I guess it might be the deep state's way of lashing back or trying to push back the inevitable, which is big exposure coming, right? Mm-hmm. So there could be some really creative scare stories. And I think I'm already starting to see some potential of that. I won't talk about it yet, but if it gears up anymore, we'll have to point some of these things out. But there's a really big scare stories to be expected. Okay, we've got the Temperance card here. So that's telling me we haven't really seen anything yet in the way of what's been exposed. So if we think we've had exposure yet, we're just getting started with that card there. It says actually they were easing us into this. Okay, so it's going to be something really big drops first thing. Okay, like maybe right away on Monday or something. A really big drop there. And then we've got the 6 of Pentacles there. That's interesting. So the 6 of Pentacles, which is like deals struck. And so a big thing we saw earlier, Meg and I, when we were looking at it, was that what you're really going to see is who's in bed with who and what kind of cahoots are going on. Who are these 3-letter agencies really dealing with? Who is Epstein, hanging out with and in close contact with? connections between people that
Mhm.
will start to make sense, tying people together. Who's doing what really, and who's really working with who. That feels like a really big drop around some kind of connection where you start connecting the dots on how these agencies all fit together and
Uh-huh.
who they actually support and who they're actually tied to. So here we've got, it could be a hell of a week. So we've got this 10. The 10 is, it might even be overwhelming amount of things coming out that have been hidden. So I feel like the whole week's just nonstop info coming out.
Okay. I want to see some clarifiers there. If you want to pull two cards on the Trump administration, where they think they are in their rollout plan. Are they doing well? Are they behind? Are they on schedule? Or are they now ahead? Because there was a little bit of bumps in the road the last time we asked this question. Where are they situated now with respect to what they think their rollout plan should be?
Well, we've got the 7 of Swords, so that's them and where they're at. Okay, so strategy. So they're thinking ahead at something that's coming down the road and wondering when. It's almost like to pull the trigger on some things. So they're really being strategic about pulling the trigger on things. And sometimes they'll wait on things and sometimes they'll have to pull the trigger, but it's almost like a moment for moment decision they're needing to make. I'm going to pull one more. That's more like just where they're sitting. Let's
Okay.
see how they're feeling about it. Like how, are
Okay.
they like the rest of that, what you said there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they look like they're ready for action and having to be really nimble on their feet and just super energized warrior mode.
Energized warrior mode. I love it. Okay. Now, relating to this 40,000 foot pool, if you want to reshuffle now, I want to ask you if and when and how the ET stuff might contribute to those two aces and all the stuff, or maybe completely throw the game off because it's still in the WebBot data. And for now, we seem to have a lull period on the ET disclosure front and also in terms of the above the sky viewing stuff or maybe stuff falling out of the sky in terms of DETs. So let's do that poll to see if they show up here next week and if they derail some of those plans, or if they are already in those plans and that's what they're waiting for, ready to pull the trigger if they show up. Let's see how that all ties in, Janine. I said the same thing.
Yeah. So
Where do you want to go with that one, May? Janine? Sorry.
could be a celebration here
Uh-huh.
because it's really well aspected with the world underneath it. Okay, so it could be a celebration. So that's interesting. I don't know why that's coming up, but or that can be just a really even flow coming from where the 3 of Swords is a difficult time period, bumpy road, loss, or talking about loss, or bringing things up that are hard. So I'm not sure why that came up in the past. Here's right now what the public sees. So we're all waiting. Public is waiting and looking at the sky more. People got really interested in what was being shown and how much sharing was happening with those, all of the drone activity, etc. So I feel like people are really anticipating more action here, and they just wet their whistles, as it were.
Yeah.
For that. And then here we've got the Knight of Wands. So the activity looks like it starts up again, especially between now and April. So things really start cooking up again. And we've got the 2, but there's something else they want to roll out. And I feel like with this deep state card and this card here, it might have something to do with the child trafficking, adrenochrome, so things that are really hurtful and hard to listen to. I wonder if they're going to try to squeeze that in before they go really heavy on ET again. Disclosure.
Remember the other day we looked into this weird, what they call the doomsday fish, and when it shows up, something dreadful or catastrophic might happen. When you pulled on it, you thought it was more positive than negative, one.
Mhm.
And two, it was somewhat connected to maybe watch the waters and maybe the ET front. Do you see in that card pull now, or do you want to do clarifiers again as to whether or not that comes from the waters as opposed to the sky, or is it already in the cards there?
Let's do clarifiers, but I will look at this again and say that 3 of Cups can also be about water.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then the 2 of Pentacles. So it's like they got a couple of things they could roll out. So remember that a lot of this is orchestrated, and it's a lot of it's been done in the past, and it's about rollout. So of course, the ET thing could be a bit of a rogue thing because that involves actual entities potentially that aren't from local, you know what I mean? So they could be from underwater, they could be from underground, and they could also be from the skies. Okay, but this 2 of Pentacles says, they don't have a complete control over what's happening, maybe even under the water. So that's interesting. Maybe they're expecting something and not sure when it's going to show up is another way you could read that. So I'll clarify that.
Okay.
Also, we could be getting both ETs, good and bad ones.
Yeah, that's another way to see it. They're definitely in the mix. Ever since you pulled on the New Jersey stuff, we had the good and the bad, and also the reverse engineered military crowd also mixed into all of it.
Yeah. So we've got the 7 of Pentacles and the 2. I feel like they're waiting, though, for something. Like they have a time frame and things they want to happen in a row, like how I was first getting this. And they're waiting for, there's some kind of, they could even be waiting for when these guys show up and going to play it by ear when they show up.
Right. So going back to your first pull of, what was it? The 9 of Wands? They're waiting for something?
Yeah, they looked like they were waiting for things, and maybe even in the dark about exactly when that'll happen. So they're at the mercy maybe of some entities showing up.
Would perhaps the entities or the ETs showing up have something to do with the death of the Pope? Do you want to do a whole other pull on that? We looked at the... Yeah, let's make sure we get all the cards in there. It was funny because you and I looked at this, was it Monday? And then again on Wednesday, there's more and more news. They're hinting, of course, that this guy's probably already long gone, and they're prepping everybody. They're rehearsing their ceremonies. They're looking for alternate names to replace him. They're floating names, all that. So it's clear we're inches away here from the death of the Pope, of the current Pope. And although we've pulled on that, I wanted to look at a different aspect today too. Is that tied in somehow to the ETs? Because in some of the older Webbot data reports, we had that the ETs would come out and it would cause havoc in the religion. But one might not be causal to the other. They might just be happening at the same time, to where the Pope now dies, all the scandals come out, as in that movie that we just talked about 2 weeks ago, The Conclave, and basically the papacy and the Vatican kind of implode on itself. Maybe that happens concurrently with also ET stuff happening at the same time. So how do they connect, these two stories, the Pope and the ETs, from your first poll there?
So the Pope story looks like it doesn't connect directly.
Okay.
Let's say that. Because we've got this, here he is, he's sick, or they're presenting him like he's sick.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the story. The story is he's sick. And here the death card, and he's on his deathbed. Mm-hmm. He's dying, and it's inevitable. He's not going to make it, this has been going on for a really long time. Yeah, we're getting sick of hearing about it. Okay, we've got the 8 of Pentacles. So a lot of this is tied into how things have been working, and one by one, them checking off boxes, it feels like. Here we've got the Six of Pentacles, so something agreed to. So things have been agreed to in the background, and everybody's playing their part. So everybody was waiting for maybe their time in the movie here or the theater that's going on. See that 8 there? We've got the 8 of, so this is a waiting game and an ace. It does seem like, I feel like this Pope probably has to be out of the way before this gets played out with ETs.
Okay, so it's related in that way. Yeah. One is a timing for the other, so to speak. Yeah. Okay, so it wasn't a causation thing to where ETs come up and the Pope goes and the religion goes. So it's kind of all happening at the same time, so to speak.
Maybe they got to play that out before they want to roll out ETs, because that'll start people, looking into the Bible and questioning, and then maybe going down those rabbit holes we all went down, where a lot of the Bible might have been misinterpreted, or some certain words and all of that stuff. I feel like, there's a timing with this.
Okay. Let's go back to cash. So there were delays. You had picked up since the beginning of his proposed nomination that there would be delays. He's one of the last ones here to be confirmed. You had nonetheless pulled cards every time people asked that, yes, he would be confirmed, but with delays. So too was the case for Tulsi Gabbard and RFK. All of those now have come to pass, positive, just as Kash Patel is today. One of the questions we had throughout this since Inauguration Day is whether or not this gentleman was in harm's way of perhaps being targeted, eliminated before he took the position. And so people are still asking today, this is a very critical post. We understand all the politics of it, but we also understand all the legalities here that could ensue from this guy opening the books at the FBI, so to speak. So where does he stand in terms of protection right now? And of course, I'll ask the audience members, to send this guy protection. He needs a lot of protection for the work that he's about to jump into here. So, but I'm curious where the cards are at. Does he have off-world protection also? What's behind him? Does he have the wherewithal here to get on mission and get things done? Where does he situate himself?
So I think they took this real seriously from the get-go around protection, because that card really wakes up and smells the coffee and recognizes this is like a drama card. Okay, so they know this is a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, and we've got the 6, so they're really really looking far out on his protection. Okay, so that to me says, they've got all kinds of protection. They're seeing the big picture of what he might need here. We've got the Page of Cups. It's like they're ready for even surprises. Of course, if you got security detail, you got to be ready for surprises. In the middle, and we've got the Strength. So how does he look? And here's how they want him to look. They want him to look strong and powerful, and like he's going to really, bring it.
Kick some butts and take names.
Yeah. And here we've got the Chariot card. So he hits the ground running, and that's probably Monday morning, maybe even tomorrow morning. I don't know.
Yeah.
Monday morning. I don't know when he starts, but he's going to hit the ground running, because Chariot is like literally hitting the ground running. Yeah. And it's fast and furious. Oh my goodness. All of these major arcanas again. This is interesting. Major arcana L shape here. We've got Emperor here, the Emperor, which is a lot of clout. I feel like he's been given a lot of clout to go after the deepest, darkest. His job looks like it could be one of the most ferocious attacks on this deep state. I feel like his is like he might have one of the biggest positions, which could even be why they took so long and drew it all out and had everybody sitting on the edge of their seats here with this.
Yeah. Okay.
He's now cover some real dirt with this card here.
That's my next question, because he's been on the record saying that if he was confirmed, one of the first things he wants to do is release the Epstein list. In this particular post by Rob Logan, of course, they're hinting at Oh, could it be that Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Carney are on that list? I don't know. We'll see. But let's do. Do you want to do a clarifier as to the list itself? If that perhaps could be on the front burner for Kash Patel here, are we going to get those names published here?
So we've got a surrender. So there's some kind of timing around it, and or maybe this is even all of the people that have to surrender to. This is coming. They're coming for you. Okay, and this is a really good, strong sovereignty card. So I'm not sure why that came up. I think I'll do a third card because this is certainly surrender to what? The sovereign community, like surrender to the fact that the sovereign community of humanity is winning. I mean, the people that want freedom are going to win with this guy in place here. Mm-hmm. And here we've got the Seven of Swords. So they have to be really strategic. It's saying they're going to need to be really strategic with this because really they're the biggest names out there.
Yeah, this is not easy.
Be careful.
Yeah. Because once the list is out, who's to stop like crazy people from acts of vigilantism, right? Like there's a lot to consider there.
I think I get what this is saying. There's going to be a lot of strategies thrown at them to stop it.
Okay. Yeah.
A whole bunch of people are going to scramble to stop this in, I don't know, lots of ways.
I mean, he'd be enemy number one to all of these people who are on the list. And these people have their livelihoods, their careers, everything at stake when their names come out. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, join me, guys. Send some energy to Kash Patel. He needs all of it, and he needs our support here. Wow, it's going to be fascinating to see this in the next couple of weeks unfold, and we wish him well. All right, so let's go to the next news story. Mr. Trump is getting more and more serious by the day on this whole Fort Knox gold audit. It started as a rumbling just a couple of weeks ago. You and I were reporting. And like with many stories, they seem to be going out first on the periphery. They're testing and they're seeing the propagation on social media. And we're seeing like low-level names we retweet. And then eventually, it gets its way to the president. We've seen that now time and time again in the last couple of weeks. Same thing with this story. So it started on the periphery and now he's talking about it. That's interesting. And he was actually talking about it here on the plane. I want to play this clip for you guys. So he talks about two things here. He's talking about the dividend, the 5K dividend from Doge. So the money they're finding, he's proposing to give it 20% back to Americans, which I think is excellent news in the right direction. And he also, even though he wasn't prompted on it, talks about Fort Knox here. So let me just change decks quickly and get to that slide for you guys. All right. And there's engine noise. They're in the plane. Hopefully you guys can hear this okay, but let me know right away, Janine.
Proposing potentially giving money to Americans based on what Doge is finding. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I love it. A 20% dividend, so to speak, for the money that we're saving by going after the waste and fraud and abuse and all the other things that are happening. I think it's a great idea.
How much money do you think?
Could be a lot. I mean, if it's 20%, we'd give back a lot of money to the taxpayer. And also it would give an incentive for the taxpayer to go out and report things to us where we can save money.
So Trump confirmed on Air Force One last night that, he's looked.
There's another clip, and he finishes, and he talks about, it's the wrong clip. Just after that, he talks about Fort Knox also. So interesting enough, let's break it down first. This 20%, we looked at it last night, and we're like, well, okay, it's not a lot, right, compared to what perhaps Americans are owed. If you think about the fake interest rates being charged by the banks, these exorbitant numbers, whether they're legal or not. There's this whole question is, we have to look at this in many ways. But what we got listed in the card was that he was starting the conversation and educating the people that somehow they are owed, right? Which is new. Like no other government has talked in those terms before. So we got last night, okay, it's good news, but it's a start. It's not a big number. And at the same point, we had people complaining in the chat yesterday. It's like, well, why would they give $5,000 to every household when, for example, if you're 60 or 70, you've been paying into the system way longer than if you're 20 or 30? And I get it. There's all these questions yet to be answered. But Trump seems to at least be open to giving back to Americans, which is one of his promises. So I think that's good news. Let's pull on that again here, Janine, and see where this goes. This 5%, is it still just in the education phase? Not 5%, this was 5K, but he was talking about 20%, and maybe more. And in there also, he added, this might encourage Americans also to report where there's more fraud. So he's marshaling now, not just Doge, but everyday Americans to report government fraud. So, I mean, holy shit, we're in a brand new territory, Janine. Oh, you're muted, Janine.
Sorry, the dog was going off there. So that's the thing. This is going into the whole thing. So that's exposing, that card's a dysfunctional card. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of hidden things. So it's interesting. I feel like the number will be a lot higher. So 20%, by the time they're done, 20% could end up being a lot of money.
Yeah, people are confused in the chat. They're saying 25%, haha, $5,000. No, add another zero. No. He's talking about 20% of some of the recovered money divided by the number of Americans. That's how he got to that 5K right now in his calculations. Yeah. So he's not, okay. Keep going now with the bottom row. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like he's opened the conversation, and see the Three of Pentacles, getting people to think about the fact that we're in this together, and he's also trying to unite people with the idea. So people can all start thinking, you know what, there could be a win out of all of this, instead of people losing their job and their people are, it's interesting. Like, it feels like he's trying to get them to think in a different way. Yeah. And I feel like it's also saying that it could be way bigger than number. By the time they're done, could be way bigger. People could be getting a lot more money than $5,000. I think it's the start of the conversation.
Yeah. And that would make sense too. And for the guy who's knows the art of the deal, you start with this smaller number, and then you keep increasing, right? You don't overpromise from the get-go. So that's very interesting. Okay. Now, I don't have the other clip. It doesn't matter. There's the actually, let me go back to the other deck here for just a moment. I'll read you the quote at least. We don't have the video. But in that same interview, he said, if the gold isn't there, he's talking about Fort Knox, we're going to be very upset. Of course, he knows what's there and what's not there. So there's no way they're going there blinded and doing this televised stream thing that Elon Musk is talking about, if they don't already know the answer of what it is they want to show Americans here with respect to Fort Knox. Now, if you followed Andy in the last week and a half, he's been twice on my show, once with Bill Holter yesterday or the day before, and also on the Wacky Woo Sunday night. And Andy's putting the pieces of the puzzle together and suggesting that something changed dramatically last November to where the United States became net importers of gold, to the point now that it's putting so much stress on the BMA in London that they went from a T+1 settlement, so that's 1 or 2 day settlement, to now 6 to 8 week settlement in London, because they had to ship their gold to the United States, who were all standing for delivery in December, January, and now here in the month of February. So something dramatically has changed in the background. And of course, we're pushing $3,000 now per ounce on gold. Gold seems to be sniffing out that there's something that's about to happen, and a lot of people are piling on to gold right now. And people are suggesting that maybe Trump, with his other announcement with the Treasury Secretary saying that they were going to create a sovereign wealth fund, and to monetize their balance sheet, they're thinking, a lot of people are opining right now, that they want to revalue gold. And if they're going to do that, they have to have some serious gold in the back to show people, so that people have confidence in this revaluation and perhaps the pegging to this new currency, if that is the case and where they want to go. Because there was allusions made to the effect of having a gold-backed treasury note by 2026. by Julie Shelton. And there was some type of mechanism also attached to Trump's strategic Bitcoin reserve plan. So all of this now is in the air, and the mainstream news is not really connecting the dots for any of us. So Andy, I have to say a big thank you to you for being on the show for the last 3 days to kind of decode that for us. And guys, if you haven't seen that episode, please do go check it out. Now, Janine, let's look at Fort Knox. I want you to just do a bulk poll right now. What do we need to know? Because I'm not like, I have specific questions, but I'm worried that there might be something we're missing here. And I'm saying Trump must know something right now. Otherwise, this wouldn't be all in our comms right now. I want to see what's behind all of this. What have we not asked yet that maybe the audience should know, or that the universe wants us to know? Let's start there.
So this is what's actually maybe happening in Fort Knox. As far as the gold goes, I feel like there's definitely gold there. There might even be more, because this card says you could be surprised at how much. This card sort of says you'll get what you expected and a little more. That's literally one of the sayings that goes with the card.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's physical. It's about physical abundance. Okay, and then the 3 of Cups. So there's a celebration again around it. So happy, so energetically or emotionally. So I feel like even though they look like they're basically kind of insinuating they're not going to find gold, I feel like they will. So I don't know what they'll show the public, but they're going to find gold there. Yeah, you bet. And they knew that. It's part of the war. Okay, so I have a feeling what went in that this Andy Scheckman, is that who's telling you?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
I feel like it actually came through the war. So we have a war going on. It's a dark versus light war. So they got it from the deep state. That's where they got the gold. So if it did come from the UK, it's because the UK was hiding deep state money. I don't know, gold. Because it looks like they won it in the war. All of the gold in Fort Knox got replaced and won in the war. Okay, so this is...
Hold on just a sec for that too. I need to add this part before you go too far. This is the video, guys, if you want to see it. We rehashed this yesterday with Polter. And we looked at whether or not that could be the case. And they're like, well, it does make sense that this gold now is coming back to refill perhaps what was previously emptied in Fort Knox. But he says right now there's a problem because the gold bars coming from London are in a different format than they were in Fort Knox. So he says somewhere in between, somebody has to refine them, remelt them into the proper format. So they need to do that process before they go live in the vault and show us the bars, because it's not the bars that are supposed to be there. But again, we might be treated to some type of movie magic if indeed that's what Elon Musk wants, why he wants to bring the cameras into Fort Knox. So there's that piece to add to that. So continue with the reading, Janine.
Okay, so speaking of movie magic, this card can be about illusions and hidden things, really deeply hidden, especially when we're not talking about life or death. So we're not talking about life or death. We're talking about gold. So this card comes up, and this is how the public will see it. The public will see the movie magic of it. So even if they don't have the right gold, I wonder if they'll use AI to make it look like they do. I don't know. They could play around with what you see when they take you in there with that card. This is what the public sees. And what's actually going on looks like there's more gold there than originally there was. So it's gained gold, not lost it, regardless what they tell you or what they're saying right now.
Yeah, and some people are asking us, would the average Joe even know the difference? Well, yeah, if it's supposed to be 1,000 ounce bars or 1 kilo bars versus the what are the other ones? The kilo bars versus the 1,000 ounce, there's a big difference. You would see it on camera. But at the same time, would we know the difference if it's tungsten painted in gold? No, absolutely not. Just by watching something in the vault through a video camera, we wouldn't even know it's gold. It could all be painted. And Andy was making that point too, that they're basically painting gold bricks right now just to fill the vault. So that's interesting. Let me have you ask a clarifier. So on one hand, we're being treated to the news that all of this gold is moving from London, the LBMA, into the United States. And we're also being told that this is because of the tariffs, that people are worried about the tariffs. Andy and Bill were like, no, that's a cover story. Something else is really happening behind the scenes. They made a few points as to why that was. One of them was the gold leasing rate also completely out of whack, suggesting that something is broken in the background. Had nothing to do with the tariffs that Trump wants to put on these other countries as leverage. So the other thing that Big Swear has been researching now for a number of decades is that the States actually have way more gold than we were ever told. So whatever is in Fort Knox, or was supposed to be there since the last audit in the 70s, is infinitesimally small compared to the gold that could be in the Grand Canyon. And there's a long history of why the Grand Canyon has been locked off from people, and it's because a lot of gold is there, and that eventually they wanted to remonetize that gold. That is part of the theory in the Road to Ruta documents from the Federal Reserve. So even though it's a comic book, they seem to be telling us what the whole plan was since the beginning. And of course, if you want more research on that, there's a lot of free videos on Bix's YouTube channel, roadtoruta.com. So Janine, this gold now that we're going to be showed, because apparently now we're leading up to this big showcase at the Fort Knox, and you say there might be more than we think, does it have something to do with the Grand Canyon gold? Secrets.
It's got something to do with something hidden from us. And so maybe not, actually, but there's secrets around the gold, and you won't hear the whole story, and they are going to be tricky about it, because this is a tricky card, what they show the public. Okay, but in time, the secret will be revealed. So it's almost like it doesn't even want to say yes or no to that.
Yeah, it's a little secret yet. Okay, let me try one more thing to tease out a little bit more information. In the last number of years, we had a lot of researchers, truthers, repeaters suggesting that gold had been finally removed from the Vatican, and that perhaps this is the gold now that's made its way back to the United States. I'm not sure why it would go through London first and the LBMA if it actually was from the Vatican. But let's ask here if the Vatican gold has something to do now with this Fort Knox story. Let's get clarifiers there.
So there's a soft yes and an independent. This card came up first, which is about independent wealth. So there, I feel like it's saying there's a whole independent store of it, maybe not in Fort Knox. So there is something true about what you're saying, but it's independent of Fort Knox.
Well, the Grand Canyon would still be completely independent of Fort Knox, but what I'm saying is they could have used something from the Grand Canyon to backfill Fort Knox to show us what's there, because you said there could be way more, and I tend to believe that, and that is the thesis also behind Big Swear's research, is there's way more gold than we know. And that could be also why Julie Shelton is again reposting that they want to start this new gold-backed treasury note for the 250th anniversary here in next year, so in 2026. Now, let's ask that question, but I'm going to need you to reshuffle to have all the cards. Are we going back to some type of gold-backed standard? And when I talked about monetizing the asset side of the U.S. balance sheet earlier, I was referring to this, the Treasury Secretary here, and in this particular opinion and math, they're suggesting that gold could be revalued somewhere around $21,000 per ounce, and that could be a start here. Now, Bill Holter suggested it could be a little bit higher than that. If you look at the economist Jim Sinclair, also I think he was at $24,000 an ounce, and I think James Rickards was at $24,000 an ounce doing this same type of math. but Jim Sinclair was closer to the $100,000 per ounce gold. And when we said that on the show, some people said, "Oh, that's just crazy." Well, just a couple of years ago, it was crazy to think that Bitcoin was 100,000. So it's not that crazy. So the question is now, Janine, are we going back to some type of gold backing? And is that what's about to be announced here? Because you keep getting the gold cards in your card here for the last 2 or 3 months, that it has something to do here with some type of financial reset. And the last time I had you pull on the crypto woo finance, you said maybe end of February, maybe March, we were in those 4, 5, 6 week time frames. So given all that news that we're seeing now, and Trump seemingly leaning in now to this Fort Knox story, where are we on that gold back standard? Is that more plausible, less, or do we still have something to do before we get to that?
So we got the death card, which is a slow roll towards something. We've got all of these positive cards, so I feel like it's already been done. They've already agreed to this and done some work towards it. So I think there is a gold-backed money system coming, if that makes sense to your question. Already done. So that's a yes in the past. Then we've got the death card. So some things have to roll out, and it's in the form of information. So something has to finish first before they want to roll it out. We've got the Fool. So that's what people are expecting. So they won't, sort of the regular folks aren't expecting this. This community is, because we've been talking about it for a long time. Okay, but I feel like regular folks will be surprised by this. Okay, and even bedeviled by it. So that's interesting. The devil shows up. So I wonder why they'd be bedeviled by the new system. Are they all going to fear they're going to lose? I don't know why that would. Anyway, I'll keep talking. So in answer to your question, more answers to it here. We've got the 9 of Cups. So this is the White Hat Alliance sort of energy. That's what I was asking. What do they think about it? Or is this something they want to do? Or are they backing it? That's kind of what I added to the question. And it's saying that's what their wish is. So their desire is to bring this out, something they already created. So it looks like they already created it and they want to bring it out here. It's their desire. But something could block it, even with that devil card. Something could block it or has been blocking it.
So something could block it, has been blocking it, and you said it's a slow burn there with the death card. So this is not so am I right to say this is not a tomorrow, next week, or 4 weeks from now? It's a longer process.
Yeah.
Which leads back to what Judy Shelton was saying. It could be 2026. But even in that case, I did ask that same question to Andy Segment, that, okay, if it's 2026, and the BRICS are going to roll out their 40% backed by gold unit. This was announced at their last BRICS summit. At some point, if Trump is going to win this game, he has to get out in front of them. And Andy he said, no, you're absolutely right. So that means that they slowly, at least, and continuously have to let the gold price go up. Not dramatically, but it needs to keep going up here so that eventually we could get to this in 2026 and have it make sense. So it seems that we're on that track now. So a slow burn upwards, but nonetheless, also maybe not to spook the markets, not to break everything, because any big jolt in gold and silver right now could crash the banks, could crash all the naked shorting on the banks and create all sorts of unintended consequences. That could be also what's preventing that there, Janine. Do you want to do maybe 2 clarifiers on even the white hats understanding that them doing this could cause unintended consequences, and that could be some of those delays there?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. They don't want setbacks and they don't want disappointments. They want this to happen, but they got to do it carefully or they're going to bump into this.
Okay.
Some kind of pushback.
And people are still asking me in the chat tonight, just as they were in the show with Andy, what about silver? Well, both guys told you silver is going to be gold on steroids. So when gold goes, silver is going to go a lot higher, a lot faster, proportionately speaking. They were both on that same answer in unison. So that means astronomical numbers also for silver moving forward. Okay, I think that's it for the first segment of the show. Thank you so much, Janine. You can reshuffle. Up next, I want to introduce, of course, one of our special guests for this evening. We have two, by the way. Of course, is the one and only Ashala. You can find her on the consultation page here on John Mystic. You can find her also now with her new Dream Analysis 101 here on the Academy. Ashala, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hi, JC. Hi, Janine. Lovely to see you both. Delighted to be here.
Thank you for being on, Ashala, and thank you, folks, for keeping with us here. We have another segment after this, and then we have another special guest also, and some cool new prizes to give away tonight, brand new products at the end of the show. So stay tuned. There's a lot still to go this evening. Thank you so much, Ashala, for being here. I'm excited to talk about this new product you have on the Academy page. Janine and I have been wanting to do this dream analysis in one shape or form since almost day one of starting the Academy. And when we found you and your skill set, we were like, oh my God, here we are. We can finally deliver this product for the audience members. So I want you to start by telling me a little bit the genesis of why you got so interested in dream analysis. How did you get into all of this subject matter?
Yeah, thank you. Well, and Meg and I discussing on Tuesday, she was expressing how almost the divine timing of this course coming out right now, because of all this shift with the Piscean energy and so many planets in Pisces. And she was suggesting that it almost couldn't be a better time, like even in, decades and decades. Like this is the moment. The next 2 or 3 months is the real sweet spot for working with our dreams. So right on cue, everybody. And while my experience goes back, just like so many of our followers that are, spiritually intuitive, psychic, or have some kind of special abilities, I've always had profound dreams and consequently been kind of curious about them, comparing them to other people's dreams, which seem to be a bit more run-of-the-mill, perhaps. And I was really driven to find out more about dreams. So I guess it was, probably back in the 80s, I took some different dream analysis courses and started learning more about decoding the language of symbols. And, symbols show up, of course, in the work we do with tarot and divination. You can see symbols in all practices, spiritual practices, where we're basically receiving messages from the subconscious, which often speak to us more in pictures or in feelings or in sometimes kind of strange scenarios that unfold in our dreams. But often these messages are almost cryptic in nature, or they're symbolic or sometimes even very literal. And so I started working with my dreams, as I said, decades and decades ago. And over the years, I've had a varied relationship with doing my dream work. Sometimes I found that my dreams were so activated and profound and were having a really big impact on me emotionally. So I took really care and attention to transcribe them regularly and analyze them more frequently. And other times I've gone for months and even years without focusing on them very much.
Yeah. And right now, most of the people in the chat, especially in the last couple of months, are saying, we need this because we're dreaming like crazy and we don't know what the heck is going on, right? So Janine, tell me a little bit also why you think this dream analysis course right now answers part of the frequency set requirements for our audience members who are very well attuned now to all of these energies coming from space, who are very well attuned now to perhaps past karma that is rolling up to being resolved and coming through our dreamscape, and how we are very much attuned also to the collective who's going through all of this turmoil at the same time, and why that is kind of like discombobulating us here like a ball in a pinball machine, and we need a little bit more guidance here moving forward. Why do you think this is so important, and why do you think Ashala is the right person for this course? Oh, you're muted, Janine.
The Ashala part's easy. I know Ashala since, the 90s anyway. Hey, Ashala?
Yeah, early 2000s, late 90s, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So when we were roommates and everything, I know, I just know her path and how she's really, really suited to really delve deep into her own psyche, her own like dream. Like she would have been analyzing her dreams from, like she said, 80s, 70s, maybe.
Mhm.
Like she's been on this path for her whole life that I've known her, and I've known her a lot of years. So she's definitely the right person. Also, like Meg mentioned to me, so Meg and I were both talking about you, Ashella, and we were saying how really thorough you are. So as whatever interests you, or anytime you're spiritually sort of awakened to some part of your spiritual path or whatever, you get 100% into it. You delve into it, and you don't let any stone unturned. Like we've both worked with you on shows now, and we know that's true.
It's
Like
very methodical. Yeah.
yeah, when you come up with a workshop, it usually has to be a 3-parter, just because of all the information and digging you do and work you do towards bringing every piece of information you can on it. So yeah, you're definitely the right person. And I feel like I've been almost daily getting people writing me, and even friends phoning me, and we'll talk about that maybe a little later, but telling me about profound dreams they're having. So it's definitely a time when dreams are playing a really big part of our awakening. So yeah, this couldn't be more timely, frankly.
I love it. Thank you. Ashella, let me ask you also, speaking of being very proficient and methodical, explain how you've structured the course, because some people might look at this and it's like, oh, I've seen some books and it seems a little bit too daunting, but you really broke it down in bite-sized pieces here to make it make sense for the audience to empower themselves moving forward to analyze their dreams, as opposed to having to go look externally. So explain what you'll learn here and what we have on the page.
Yeah, great. As Janine said, I like to research and be quite thorough, but I'm also a big systems thinker. So it's not just a bunch of separate pieces of information that are super, sort of academic. I like to weave it all together and make it relevant and make it work as a cohesive whole. So in this course, for example, I always like to start with bringing in the history and some of the ancient sort of metaphysical and esoteric history that goes along with dream analysis. I mean, we see it in all different parts of the world, all different traditions, from the major religions to different indigenous spiritual traditions, so many original people and ancient ancestors worked with dreams in a super meaningful way. Like they didn't just consider them to be, meaningless stuff that happened while you were sleeping. They took dreams very seriously and actually made huge decisions based on people's dreams. They had people, some of the, leaders back in the day had their oracles and interpreters that would make decisions on behalf of like whole nations, and whole religious communities would make decisions based on their dreams. So I'm bringing a little bit of that context in, and then the modern scientific context in as well. So we can see that modern science has done tremendous amount of research, especially in the last 10 or 15 years. The stuff that I didn't know about 30 years ago when I was getting into this, there's new evidence brought forward that validates, in fact, the significance of our dreams, how we can actually do healing work through our dream experiences. And people go, oh, well, that's way too much for me, or I don't remember my dreams, or, my dreams are just weird and crazy. I cover all of that. I cover each of those points. And even people who have really frightening dreams, we get into talking about sleep paralysis and nightmares, and how the dream world is actually a place where we can grow and evolve spiritually, given the right sort of tools and education. So one of the things I love the most about this course is that I've brought forth a formula, a really simple, easy to follow formula that takes people through, okay, you wake up in the morning, you maybe just have a bit of a feeling or a few memories, or like this weird couple of points are sticking out and you're like, what the heck does that mean? And instead of having to write out your whole dream, I've given you this formula of how you can break it down into these little symbolic bite-sized pieces, attach some emotion to it, and then you can even put it aside and come back to it later, like on the weekend when you have some time to sit down and have a look at it, or notice over a series of days or weeks or even months that there's a sequence happening. You know, oftentimes people will be like, oh, I'm having this whole sequence with these particular animals or these weird scenarios happening again and again.
Right.
So working with a formula like this, it's great because it gives you tools to break it down, simplify it, analyze it, and then over time, you can start to work with the patterns.
Okay, very good. Now, so guys, in the workshop, you have 3 pre-recorded video tutorials, about 90 minutes in total. Really cool. Comprehensive course notes, again, to follow, and some of these tips and tools, as Ashala has just mentioned, and also a live Q&A with Ashala that is going to be held here on March 23rd. So you can start the course now, go through it at your pace, and then come back to it in about a month or so to do a live Q&A with Ashala. But we're going to do some live Q&As with you guys tonight here too, to get into it a little bit deeper. The first question off the bat, what if you can't remember your dreams?
Yeah,
What do you do, Ashala? That's a very typical question here. What do we do?
Oh, it's actually very, very common. And I've got the percentages, not off the top of my head. I think it's around 22% that rarely remember their dreams, and there's like a 1.5 or something that never remember their dreams. And do not fear, folks, because we have a solution for that. You still wake up in the morning with a feeling. Oftentimes, you know, people wake up and they'll go, oh, I felt really funky, or I just woke up and like suddenly I had a song in my head. I tell people, if you don't remember your dreams, do a little bit of, you know, statement divination or song divination. What does that mean? It means you wake up and you just tune in for a moment as you're opening your eyes and coming around and go, messages? Hello? Anyone out there? Check my inbox and just say, you know, I got this statement or this little message from my guides, or I have a song in my head. We can start with that and work on feelings. What do I feel the minute I wake up? And how, you know, what are my thoughts? What am I drawn to thinking about? If you can, you know, resist reaching for your phone, give yourself, you know, a good few minutes just to sit and go, what's going on? If you have some dream memories, you might want to go over them a little bit. And if you don't, feelings, messages, and songs.
And how about also for people, I know Joe does this also as a practice, he encourages not just the dreams, but topics of certain dreams if he has specific questions before he goes to bed. And he also encourages himself before he goes to bed to remember that dream when he wakes up, right? Too. So setting that, and speak about that, setting that intention also before going to bed, Ashala.
Yes, that's another way to increase your dream recall, and also to increase something that is called lucid dreaming, which many of you are probably familiar with, which is where you actually become aware in your dream that you're dreaming. And there's a lot of really cool stuff that can be done from that point of view, which actually is giving you training for how to be more empowered in your waking life as well. So a lot of times, you know, when we're lucid in our dreams, we recognize just before we're going to hit the ground, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm dreaming. Wake myself up and snap out of it, you know. That's just very beginning, basic lucid dreaming. You can develop the ability to actually create scenarios, resolve issues. You can go into your sleep time with an intention. I want to work on healing this. I want to understand. I want to clarify this challenge in a relationship I'm in. And you can, over time, develop the ability to dream some of those activities and then become aware as you're dreaming and actually choose how to direct the process. It's a little bit more advanced, but it's actually a lot easier than it may seem.
Right. And we might do some more advanced courses later on after this one too, to get even deeper into that. For now, let me ask both of you, maybe you have this, like I'm curious to ask if you've had, or if you have on the top of your mind, an example of, hey, I had this dream, I went through the process of analyzing it, I got an answer, a direction, I actioned that answer or that direction, and I had this huge benefit because of it. Or conversely, I saw the divination, I saw the answer, and I refused to take that action, and something really bad effing happened, right? Give us an example of that. Maybe start first, Ashella, and then I'll ask Janine also.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to think of an example. I feel like I do this so often on a regular basis, and I usually aim to acknowledge or take some kind of action if it really feels like there's something there for me, like a gift. So yeah, I'm just trying to think of an example where. Do you
Janine,
have
do you
an
have one on
example,
the top of
Janine,
your
while
head?
I'm contemplating?
Okay, let's go for Janine first. Janine, unmute your mic.
I got lots of examples, but I'll just say that lately, because of the work I've been doing over the years with the truther community, I wake up literally raring to go like a warrior. It's often actually probably drives. Right now, I have a roommate while our house is being built. I got a really good friend living with me, probably driving her insane because I wake up and it's like I must have got downloads and dreams. A lot of times it comes in the form of dreams, or it's like what Ashella said. You just wake up with some knowing. Okay. And I'm knowing what to focus on that day, focus the audience on, and where I have to look for things we need to talk about. So a lot of warrior sort of missions are being placed in my unconscious, I think. And then I wake up going, okay, I got to look here. I got to look there. And sure enough, I'll find, the thing I really need to be talking about. So there's that. And it feels like it's been leading me in the right directions. I feel like it might have even led me to you, Jean-Claude, in a way.
Yeah.
Right. But, that's a complicated thing. But I feel like it's leading me to the right people to talk to, the right people to be around. Yeah. So there's that. And then on a more personal note, I can wake up and think a personal thing about somebody like, oh, you need to get a hold of so-and-so because maybe they need that connection. Like in particular, I've got a nephew that kind of needs extra help right now. A young 20s nephew, and I won't get into his details, but he needs extra connection and he needs help. And I've just in the last few days woke up with just a knowing of how to approach him that normally I wouldn't use. Okay, because I got a Venus in Aries, so I don't always approach problems the right way. Sometimes I'm too blunt and direct, and my favorite words to young teens and 20-somethings when they're in trouble is, deal with it, get over it. And, those aren't helpful in some situations, obviously. So the dreams have been telling me exactly how to deal and what to say, and I've been following them to the letter. And I've been working with this young 20s nephew in the way that the dream told me, and it's had better results than ever before, any results I've had with these kind of problematic situations. So I 100% listen to those promptings. I never don't listen. Right. I've not, because I've lived my whole life listening to those promptings.
Great. Thank you. That's a great example. I have two cool questions. People talking about some dreams in the chat. Do you guys want to take a stab at maybe decoding this a little bit with the audience? What do you think? Yeah? Okay. So the first one is from Marine Mom, 2016. Sometimes I'm blind in my dreams. Ashali, you want to take a stab at that? What does that mean? What do you think?
Well, this is interesting because we do a lot of therapeutic work. As I was saying before, we do therapeutic work in our dreams, and we also are being given hints or direction about looking into things, right? So we have a lot of different ways to analyze something like the eyes or a blockage or an inability to see. On the one hand, it can relate to maybe we need to close our eyes a little bit and take some internal focus, right? So having the eyes sort of closed for us so that we have an inner vision, that's one way of interpreting it. But also, I feel like it could relate to looking at the health of your eyes and getting, I always say to people, they get anxious about either nightmares or prophetic dreams that are a little bit scary, for example. And I say, well, if you can see it, instead of it's like, oh, it's there, it's too late. It's like, it's there. There could be a little bit like a warning light on your car. It's like, go get it looked at. Go get your eyes looked at, and care, like turn your attention to self-care in that area is what I would say. What do you feel, Janine?
I couldn't agree more. Both of what you said, I would have approached the first way is what you said, and it would depend on the emotions of the person asking the question when they wake up from one of those dreams. Are you feeling fearful? Are you feeling in the dark? Are you calm? Like, how do you feel about that? So then look for further clues in your feelings. But otherwise, I would take the same approaches. I would agree with you completely.
Okay, very good. The next one is from Black Woo. I had a dream twice about a so-called friend wanting to be with my partner. Okay. Interesting dream. Janine, you want to take a stab at that one first?
Well, that, again, how did they feel about that? Is that an idea that maybe they have internally? Are they trying to move that partner away from them? Do they not trust the friend, so-called friend? Maybe they don't trust them. Okay. So like, again, feeling into your emotions about how did it feel when you woke up from those dreams? Were you feeling apprehensive? Were you feeling angry? Were you feeling kind of calm or sheepish even? Because I'll tell you, when I've wanted to let go of a relationship, one of the first things I would do back in the day when I was having intimate relationships, which I haven't for years and years, but when I was, the first thing I would do when I unconsciously, I would start fixing them up with somebody else. Okay, so what was that about? Because I wanted out of the relationship. So they need to look at how did they feel.
Okay. Well, and again, to Ashala's point, the feeling there when you wake up is a big, big, big trigger. So people might not know their dreams, but write down the feeling, right? So really take a moment, like you say, before you grab your cell phone and register that feeling and where that feeling is coming from in your body too. That too attaches to different organs, and we can have a whole conversation on that. Ashala, what do you make of that last dream there about the so-called friend wanting to be with their partner?
Well, and like I said before, I love to say that dreams are like free therapy. It's like we're getting to go to the best counselor on the planet, which is our higher self. And it's free therapy. So if you went to a counselor and said, I don't know, I just had this flash of my partner being with one of my friends, they'd probably say, okay, let's talk about this. And maybe you want to process a little bit about what's going on. Is there something, whenever there's often when there's these kind of dynamics, interpersonal dynamics, there's some kind of power play happening. There's some kind of like, and maybe some, lack of transparency, like people aren't being honest. As Janine said, like maybe you're not being honest with yourself, or maybe you're fearing that either one of those people are not being honest with you. So to me, it's an invitation to get curious about what's going on in your relationship. That is there something that is about lack of transparency, about not being honest with each other? And that might be the first place to start, but it definitely starts with yourself.
I would lean towards that too. I agree with both of your approaches. And I will also look at it, and again, depending on that feeling the person was having, it could be about them. So it could be about a past trauma, a past deception of sorts, or a past betrayal that somehow has just been triggered in their life by some other event, or perhaps a karma asking them to revisit this core wound. And the application to their friend is really just the trigger for having to go back to the core room, and has nothing to do with that friend. It's just bringing it back up to the consciousness so that they can look at it. So it could be very much about themselves also, as opposed to the partner or the so-called friend. Okay. Janine, you said something at the beginning of the show. You and I talked about this over the weekend. One of your friends had this ominous dream, I guess we could call it that way. People in the chat thought it was Ashala's. No, it's not Ashala's. It's Ashley's dream. Is that correct?
Ashley Sage, that I used to do the deep dive Fridays with, and she's a dear friend of mine.
Do you want to share that dream now? Is it appropriate?
She gave me permission to share. So she called me up, and I always know when or actually she texted me and said, Dave, can you chat? Right. And whenever that happens, I know she either had a dream or some weird experience happened. So this was early in the morning for me. And
Hold up. She said, Dave, can we chat? Like Dave, like diva?
no, do you want to chat? Or
Okay.
do you have time to chat?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, time to chat, that sort of
Okay.
thing. And so right away I called her. And she said she had a dream with myself in it. Also, my friend Allie, who's living with me right now. So Allison was in it and myself. And she said, I was sitting drinking coffee while behind the scene was, first of all, the power was out everywhere. So she had a knowing that we were in a city, by the way. We weren't in the Haida Gwaii. So we were in a city. It was a crowded city. She thought maybe Vancouver, where I spend part of my time. And the power was out. There was no power. And things were falling apart. And she looked into why in the dream. So she does a lot of dream analysis herself. So she was in that waking energy where she realized she was dreaming. She looked around to understand what the chaos was. And it was alien visitation. So she knew there was alien visitation. It was creating power outages. And she was looking at the chaos, but I was calm in the storm, drinking my coffee with a smile. And I had a knowing smile. And then she woke up and she was like, Janine knows about this. Her community knows about this. It's something she's been talking about. So that's what her feeling about it was, that I knew it was all going to be okay because I knew it was coming somehow. But all of those other details were really interesting, I thought.
You were just sitting on the porch drinking your coffee while everybody else was panicking. You're all prepped, and you had your manual grinder for your coffee beans, so you're all good. You're all good for your
good.
coffee. Okay, very good. Charlotte, do you want to take a stab at that dream also?
Oh, that's just fantastic, Janine. And I'm just looking at all these dreams that are showing up in our comments, and I'm like, well, it's not surprising that our community are such amazing dreamers and are doing, like, I feel like we're actually doing work in our dream time, like not just our own personal therapeutic work, but we're doing like, you know, like almost when you're saying this, Janine, I'm getting, well, Ashley, you and Ashley are still working together, and you are like, she's holding down some aspect of like being in the mainstream, being in the big city, but she's like sort of connecting with your wisdom about being prepared, feeling safe, even as these extraordinary phenomena are unfolding, and reminding herself, oh, right, I've got Janine. Like, Janine is a phone call away and an astral, like, timeline link away, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we, you know, people often have these profound prophetic dreams, and I actually talk in the course about different types of dreams. It's not just one size fits all. There's a whole different variety of dreams. And these kind of dreams where there is an aspect of potential prophecy, is it really full prophecy, or is it you know, hypothetical timeline prophecy where we're saying, just in case, I want to run through my plan, you know, it's like having your fire escape plan or whatever.
Right.
Right. When that happens, I've got Janine not only on speed dial, but sitting beside me with her coffee. So I think we are doing work. We're connecting.
I love it. Thank you. Guys, if you're interested in this workshop, please check it out at beyondmystic.academy. If you use the coupon code DREAM10, you'll save 10% off there. Again, guys, I can't recommend this enough. I think it's $40. What was it at? Yeah, $44. And now with the 10% coupon code, brings it down to $39. Give it a try, guys. And all of you who tried and who know, who you've already booked the dowsing workshop, which was wildly successful and popular, you're going to love this one just as much. And it's so useful moving forward. And specifically now, again, given everything that's happening in our mainstream news, that's like the 3D level. But just at the astrological level, if you look at what Meg is putting out, there's so many alignments right now, so many things that are begging all of these reviews of our past karma, but also giving us the choice to vote moving forward where we want this next 12,000 years or whatever yuga in front of us. And so being aligned and understanding those messages really is that rudder on the ship that you need in this sea of changes just in front of us. So please do go check it out, beyondmystic.academy. A couple of questions about Ottawa. JC, when is your Ottawa for BM conference? Okay, yes. And somebody else asking 16, 14. Yeah, so the dates are in fact, yes, March 14, 15, and 16 in Ottawa.
Bờ môi thoáng run rẩy rồi gào lên một tiếng thạch phá kinh thiên. Ngươi còn là con người hay không? Tới đây thì Sở Dương đã triệt để ngất đi. Sở Dương choáng váng. Anh đây chẳng qua chỉ muốn kiếm chút lời lãi mà thôi. Như thế nào lại thành bán mất ước mơ của mọi võ giả khắp cả thiên hạ rồi? Không cần phải nghiêm trọng như thế chứ. Mẹ nó, anh mày chỉ bán có mấy thanh kiếm mà đã lập tức biến thành kẻ thù của toàn bộ võ giả trong thiên hạ rồi sao? Nếu thật như vậy thì sợ rằng mấy bữa nữa không biết có qua nổi không đây. Sở Dương trầm ngâm một lúc, rốt cuộc cũng tìm được lý do hỏi. Cố Độc Hành, tại sao ngươi phải đem thôi, thiếu cái gì ư? Trong lòng Sở Dương cũng nhảy dựng lên. Cảm giác của Cố Độc Hành quả thật rất chuẩn xác. Mấy chuôi kiếm này thật sắc bén vô cùng, nhưng thật sự vẫn có khiếm khuyết. Bởi vì những tinh túy của tài liệu trong đó đã bị cửu kiếp kiếm cắn nuốt, mà đó mới chính là hồn phách chân chính của một thanh thần kiếm. Không có hồn phách thì mấy chuôi kiếm này cũng chỉ là cục sắt có mật độ tinh khiết cao dọa người mà thôi, tuyệt đối không thể trở thành thần binh trong truyền thuyết nổi, bởi vì chúng nó đã vĩnh viễn mất đi khả năng có được linh tính của riêng mình rồi. Bảo kiếm có linh, giết người tắm máu càng nhiều thì linh khí càng bức người. Nhưng mấy chuôi kiếm này dù có tàn sát toàn bộ thiên hạ thì cũng vẫn chỉ là một khối sắt thường mà thôi. Sự khác biệt nhỏ nhoi đó chỉ đến khi chém giết tầm cỡ kiếm vương trở lên mới có thể chân chính lộ ra sự hơn kém một trời một vực. Ở cảnh giới trước đó thì hẳn không có bất kỳ kẻ nào có thể nhận ra sự bất đồng trong chuyện này. Vậy mà Cố Độc Hành mới chỉ là kiếm tông mà đã có thể dựa vào trực giác mẫn tuệ của mình cảm nhận ra sự không thích hợp trong mấy chuôi kiếm này rồi. Cố huynh, ta mở Thiên Binh Các cũng không phải chỉ vì chuyện này. Sở Dương trầm ngâm một chút rồi nói thẳng, ta còn có mục đích khác nữa, nhưng Thiên Binh Các này lại phải tồn tại. Chuyện này rất phức tạp, cũng rất hung hiểm, cho nên ta cần sự trợ giúp của ngươi. Sở Dương cười cười, kỳ thật ngay từ đầu, ta thật sự cũng không ngờ tới sẽ có người như ngươi tới đây. Nhưng nếu như ngươi đã đến thì ta sẽ không để cho ngươi đi. Ta tin tưởng ngươi, càng tin tưởng vào ánh mắt của ta. Cố Độc Hành trong mắt chợt hiện ra nét cười từ đáy lòng, nói, tốt. Chỉ có một từ, nhưng đó chính là sự hứa hẹn của Cố Độc Hành. Hắn có thể cảm nhận được những lời này của Sở Dương tuy ẩn giấu rất nhiều thứ, nhưng đó hoàn toàn là những lời phát ra từ đáy lòng. Cho nên hắn đã đáp ứng ngay lập tức. Bất kể như thế nào đi nữa, một là người ở trước mắt này nhìn rất tận mắt, hai nữa là người này cũng đã giúp đỡ mình trong lúc khó khăn nhất, thế là đủ rồi. Hai người nhìn nhau cười, hai bàn tay vỗ vào nhau. Chẳng một ai có thể ngờ rằng cái vỗ tay này về sau lại sẽ trở thành một truyền thuyết của cả Cửu Trọng Thiên Đại Lục. Ta đến từ một đại gia tộc, Cố thị gia tộc. Nói với ngươi như vậy nhưng chưa chắc ngươi có thể biết được trọng lượng của 4 chữ Cố thị gia tộc này. Nói thật, trên cả Hạ Tam Thiên này cũng chưa chắc có mấy người biết được sự khủng bố của Cố thị gia tộc. Cố Độc Hành bưng chén rượu lên, trong mắt toát ra một tia lưu luyến, một tia trìu mến sâu sắc rồi tiếp tục kể, ta là nghĩa tử của tộc trưởng gia tộc. Sau khi cha mẹ ruột của ta bất ngờ chết đi thì nghĩa phụ đã nhận nuôi ta, hết lòng bồi dưỡng ta. Sở Dương gật đầu, thầm nghĩ nếu ta còn không biết Cố thị gia tộc thì ai biết đây chứ. Một gia tộc khổng lồ như vậy mà ta còn không biết thì quả thực nên đập đầu vào tường chết quách đi cho rồi. Ai, thì ra tin đồn có chút sai lầm rồi. Người thừa kế tương lai của cố thị gia tộc không ngờ chỉ là nghĩa tử của cố gia mà không phải là con ruột. Nghĩa phụ có một con gái và 2 con trai. Cố Độc Hành tiếp tục chìm vào hồi ức. 2 vị nghĩa huynh luôn xa lánh ta, mà vốn thật sự ta cũng chưa từng nghĩ tới chuyện tranh giành, cướp đoạt cái gì của bọn họ, cho nên luôn luôn nhẫn nhục chịu đựng. Ta biết rõ rằng ta chỉ là một nghĩa tử của gia tộc, rằng quyền lực trọng yếu của gia tộc vĩnh viễn sẽ không thuộc về ta. Cho dù trong tương lai, khi ta có thành tựu thì ta cũng sẽ thủ hộ cái gia tộc này, không để cho bất cứ người nào trong gia tộc bị thương tổn. Nhưng ta tuyệt đối sẽ không trở thành chủ nhân của gia tộc này. Cố Độc Hành mỉm cười. Nụ cười đó nở bừng trên khuôn mặt sắc lạnh, đường nét rõ ràng như điêu khắc kia của hắn thật sự có vẻ không hợp nhau chút nào. Vậy vì sao ngươi phải trốn nhà đi hả? Con gái của nghĩa phụ lớn hơn ta 1 tuổi, và cũng bởi vì nàng mà ta mới bỏ nhà ra đi. Cố Độc Hành trong ánh mắt ẩn chứa một chút đau khổ pha lẫn với niềm hạnh phúc khi nhắc tới người con gái này. Từ nhỏ, Tiểu Diệu thì chính là vị thần thủ hộ của ta. Bất kể là có chuyện gì rắc rối hay bị khiển trách đay nghiến thì Tiểu Diệu tỷ đều đứng trước che chở cho ta. Mỗi lần ta bị 2 vị nghĩa huynh làm khó dễ thì cũng là Tiểu Diệu tỷ đứng ra giúp ta. Ta không hiểu thì nàng dạy ta, ta đặt không tới thì nàng giúp ta. Nàng thậm chí vì ta mà đi đối nghịch với trưởng lão trong gia tộc, đối nghịch với thân ca ca của mình, ta vẫn được nàng che chở dưới cánh tay của mình. Bình bình an an không chút lo âu mà lớn lên. Từ nhỏ đến lớn, mỗi lần ta chuẩn bị đột phá tiến cảnh thì cũng chính nàng đến dược viên và tàng bảo các của gia tộc, tìm kiếm linh dược giúp ta đột phá. Có rất nhiều linh dược đều là thiên tài địa bảo, là báu vật chỉ có thể ngộ mà không thể cầu, hết sức vô giá. Nhờ những bảo vật vô giá này cộng với sự trợ giúp từng ly từng tí của Tiểu Diệu tỷ mà thiên tài danh tiếng như ta mới có thành tựu của ngày hôm nay. Con đường tu luyện của ta thuận buồm xuôi gió, hầu như không có gặp chút tắc nghẽn nào. Chỉ cần ta lâm vào bình cảnh thì dưới lực lượng của linh đan diệu dược, tất cả các trở ngại căn bản không còn là vấn đề gì nữa. Những linh dược mà Tiểu Diệu tỷ trộn được, có rất nhiều thứ ngay cả nghĩa phụ cùng mấy vị thái thượng trưởng lão cũng không được dùng tới. Vì vậy, Tiểu Diệu tỷ, bởi vì ta mà đã chịu đựng không biết bao nhiêu trách phạt, trong khi đó ta hoàn toàn như trong mộng, không biết gì cả. Cứ mỗi một lần mang đan dược đến, Tiểu Diệu tỷ đều nói với ta là những thứ này đã có sẵn ở trong nhà, và ta cứ ngờ nghệch ăn sạch hết. Sở Dương lặng thinh lắng nghe, trong nội tâm rốt cuộc đã hiểu rõ do đâu mà ở kiếp trước, Cố Độc Hành sở dĩ tuổi còn rất trẻ mà tạo ra một truyền kỳ về tu luyện. Thì ra đây chính là nguyên do. Với nhân lực vật lực hùng hậu của đại gia tộc như Cố gia, linh dược thu thập được có lẽ nào lại là những thứ bình thường. Cố Độc Hành đã dùng hết một số lượng linh dược lớn như vậy, tốc độ tu luyện không nhanh mới là lạ. Chúng ta dần dần lớn lên, cũng nhờ Tiểu Diệu thì coi trời bằng vung mà không ngừng cung cấp linh dược. Từ đó tốc độ tu luyện của ta đã vượt xa tất cả các bạn cùng lứa tuổi, lần lượt đột phá các cấp và trở thành thiên tài được tất cả thành viên trong gia tộc để ý tới. Nhưng bọn họ nào biết vì tên thiên tài này mà Tiểu Diệu tỷ đã bỏ ra vô tận tâm huyết, vì ta mà chịu đựng bao nhiêu ủy khuất. Mà ta cũng tự hào kiêu hãnh về thiên phú của mình. Ta thật quá vô tâm mà. Cổ Độc Hành trong mắt chớp nhoáng một ánh hào quang trong suốt, đột nhiên ngửa cổ lên, đem chén rượu uống cạn một hơi rồi cầm bầu rượu tiếp tục châm đầy chén. Cho đến một ngày kia, khi Tiểu Diệu tỷ vì giúp ta đột phá kiếm tông, đã lấy đi chí bảo của gia tộc là Vân Tiêu Tử Linh Chi, khiến cho toàn thể gia tộc nổi giận lôi đình. Cố Độc Hành chợt đánh một quyền thật mạnh vào đầu mình. Ngay ở khoảnh khắc ta đột phá bình cảnh của kiếm tông, nghĩa phụ trong lúc tức giận đã cắt đi một chân của Tiểu Diệu tỷ rồi đem nàng nuốt lại. 2 vị nghĩa huynh vì vậy mà căm phẫn ta hơn nên họ đã tìm đến ta trút giận. Có điều vì không biết rõ tình hình nên đã bị ta đây đánh trong một trận. Sau đó đại huynh tức giận mắng, người một trốn đằng sau nữ tử, không cảm thấy thẹn hay sao? Hôm nay ngươi hại Diệu Linh thê thảm như vậy, chẳng lẽ ngươi không cảm thấy áy náy sao? Ta kinh ngạc đuổi theo bọn họ hỏi cho ra lẽ, và bọn họ lần này không có giấu giếm gì hết, cái gì cũng đều nói cho ta nghe. Nước mắt bố độc hành từng giọt nhỏ vào trong chén rượu. Ta đi tìm Liễu phụ thì ngài chỉ biết thở dài và nói với ta rằng, bởi vì tiểu Diệu tỷ đã nhiều lần ăn cắp tài vật của gia tộc, nên bị trưởng lão hội hợp kết trừng phạt tống giam vào đình Long Động. Hơn nữa thời hạn còn là vĩnh viễn. Vân tiêu tử linh chi chính là trí bảo gia tộc, chỉ đợi thời điểm Thái thượng đại trưởng lão trùng kích Vũ Hoàng mới dùng đến. Nếu có thể trùng kích thành công thì sẽ giúp gia tộc ta trở thành đệ nhất gia tộc, sau đó xông vào thượng tam thiên, đem bá nghiệp gia tộc phát dương quang đại. Tiểu Diệu tỷ đã trộm lấy cho ta và ta cũng đã ăn hết. Thế là tiêu tan mấy chục năm chuẩn bị của gia tộc. Điều này đối với toàn cả gia tộc mà nói, chính là một việc không